Bank as we go to the final map between M80 and Heroic.
Okay. Hey, it's a best of one now. Whoever plays the best on this map is going to be the one that takes it away. I am really curious to see if anybody can get a more solid defense. Bank does offer some, but to be honest, I don't think the map actually truly matters right now. I think the truest story that can be told is, more importantly, one that is wrapped around the idea of who can just pull it together, because both teams have struggled. Hey, who's that first ban from M80?
Yeah, it's a knock, and I'd quite like to see that. We saw Noodle manage to do a little bit of damage with that knock on the previous map. Heroic to get rid of the Kaid does change the landscape a little bit, rather not making that Thatcher quite an impactful operator, not as necessary operator. I wonder if the mirror is going to stay in, because we saw a lot of mirror on map 1. It was banned out in the second map, and Mira does have her place on Bank, particularly for that basement, but can be leveraged on multiple other sites. In fact, she will remain in, and the Azami instead, also an extremely powerful operator on Bank, will be taken out. I think that means we're going to see things like Pulse, like Solus, like Mira played quite a lot on this defensive side.
As you may have heard before we switched on to this from the other stream, even Tim, Ace of Pyrite Lever, said, Solus, she's like the new Pulse.
It's true.
And it is true. The way that she's been used, because we obviously got a little taste in the open qualifiers, the closed qualifiers. We saw the last chances come together, and teams were cautious with utilizing her because, well, she's powerful. And there's no sort of two ways about it, especially as demonstrated throughout this tournament. That is an operator you don't see too much, the Kali.
Yeah, I mean, well, of course, Heroic have time to repick, and yeah, unfortunately, as you're getting a little bit excited, it's a bait there from Noodle is actually going to go repick. But just to talk about Bank for a moment, so, well, Heroic have actually had some really mixed performances on this map, and that's, to me, quite a concern. If we look historically, yeah, the most recent time they played it, they beat out Outsiders. It was a very close 8-7 against Outsiders, who are not currently the greatest team ever, so perhaps that's not a great result. And you look further back, and it's just loss after loss, even to national level teams like 10-Star, Coalesce, and going back further back in history, just real mixed results. So I'm a bit scared for Heroic on this map, because M80, on the other hand, you know, despite the 1-7 loss to Space Station in Stage 3, they have 7 1s over Rogue, 7 5s over NIP, 7 4s over Damwon. This is a great map for M80.
They're hunting for the player. Oh, they find a lot of damage to Yoga, who can try and slip out of there. Spirits was there as well, and I don't think an Echo can move too fast, so they got to try and hot-foot it out. It was a very quick approach there, and, you know, they seemed like they were still doing a bit of setup. They weren't entirely in positions to play the rotate. They weren't entirely in positions to try and shoot back. They were sort of caught, I think, a bit, not slack, but I guess this is the difference. Heroic there for the first time in this sort of straight-down opening on their attack. This is nothing that we've really seen from them across the board so far, and it sort of might tell a different story. If they're the ones to get a real big lead, if they can try and do what they've done on their attacks before, it puts a different level of danger on M80.
I'm quite liking this setup from M80. It's an extended roam here in Kitchen and in open area with the castles, enabling Spirits, but he is, of course, the first one to go down. Heroic play this very well, dismantling the push, removing his cover, and cutting off his escape. The downside of losing Spirits is you've lost control of your Yokai drones.
Yeah, as I said, Echo, he's not a quick boy, even with his sort of tactical cool shorts. These days
he's actually a lot faster than he used to be. I believe he's a 3-speed now. So
really?
It's either 3 or 2-speed. Let me check this for you. I'm going to fact check myself.
Definitely used to be slow.
He was a 1-speed, and very recently they buffed him. I don't understand why Echo needs to be a faster operator when he's meant to be on his drone, but I'm just...
You scroll, I'll talk.
I'm looking this up.
The pressure's coming on the hatches. They're smashing their way open through the castle hand first and getting themselves the stretch towards the reveal inside. They've fallen themselves back, and the jury says...
Echo's a 2-speed.
Still quite slow for a roam that started
you can't say
on the top floor with a utility that you kind of want in the dying throes of this, because you know where to expect the plant, and those drones in garage around the maneuverability that can be offered on this map, I don't think is where you want your Echo to be the first point of call.
Well, there's plenty of other forms of plant denial here available. 2 C4s and 2 gas remaining for M80, and Heroic really have to get a wriggle on for this execute. to vault take. C4 goes out, and Yoga can just look straight through this smoke. There's actually no one. It was a bait after all. Grizzlies made his way down into elevator, another player as well, but less than 10 seconds to go. M80, all they've got to do is hold the line. But Heroic have found some magic, no diffuser to speak of. But what am I watching right now? Is that a team kill?
There was a team kill.
And the round ending on time. So if you're as confused as I am, I can confirm that that round was won by M80.
Yeah. I think Heroic technically got the last kill, but...
They didn't get the last laugh, though.
They didn't get the last laugh. No. And time was a problem there, and... You know, they sort of got very quick there on the top floor. They almost had a fight with two different people. If they'd won the kill, maybe it would have been a different story. And I said it felt like M80 were taken a little bit by surprise there, but the surprise was theirs at the end. The Heroic then slowed quite a lot down, tried to work out how they wanted to break across the basement, had all the intel on the top 2 floors, but if you don't know what's going on underneath, well, it turns into a very bad surprise party.
I'm going to speculate, I don't know for sure, I'm going to speculate that they saw the smoke playing in blue and they decided it would be too difficult to clear. I didn't actually see, we weren't really watching that part of the map, but the fact that Heroic ended up executing through, well, they opened up the vault hatch, they didn't drop it, they dropped the elevator hatch. It's quite unusual, and it's very risky because it's very difficult to get a plant position. You have to move quite deep into sight, whereas typically default, people go for server takes. But of course, you need to clear out blue stairs. Heroic, hodgepodge to plant, it didn't quite work. Now, Spirits and the rest of M80 are gonna move over to the open area and staff room bomb site. I like that we've got the Valk in the game. See if we can enable some plays by M80. But early on, Heroic have shown a bit of a change of tack. They found a nice early pick. They're using this line and this Flores to clear out util inside, to find these players' positions, and then they've got the Monty to be the hammer to the anvil.
There's only really Dyers left inside the site right now, and they're going to pull themselves a little bit further back. Yoga's offering some swing support and gets the top of your Monty, who hadn't got the shield up, entirely caught out. The E1D stops it, but if you've brought a Montaigne, you've brought an idea. And now he's gone, and so's the kit, stuck on the far opposite end, and it's a very dangerous recollection. A very important take back there for M80. Slows the pace down, slows the approach down, and Sloth, he's got to look down as he enters here. If the frost mat is still below him, there's a couple of those tuckered around as Kino just does some structuring to go, okay, well, we got a breather.
There's a huge amount of avenues onto site now, clearing out this position inside of staff room, and Noodle's gonna straight up entry. Got to be careful. Opening up this much of site does make retaking much more possible, and with Yog getting one more kill, it's gonna make it even more unwieldy here for Heroic. Noodle really needs to have an impact here on this entry.
They haven't been able to recollect the kit. They're sort of idle in either side of it and seeing if they can get a scrap. They've buried themselves in. Grizzly's got the kit, and then they've got the pop-up on the lockdown. There's a couple of smokes right on the door. Grizzly's going for a wider rotate, gets a kill. And he's been pretty consistent at that. Sloth inside. Does he know someone's to his right? Well, now he knows everyone's all around him. Pops up.
No, Sloth!
Cannot find it.
No!
Oh, tragedy has struck. Sees the next fight, stuck in a corner. Everybody's all around him.
Not like this!
That's fish in a barrel.
Did I chilled so bad.
Man,
Bro, what the fuck is...
that was a bit of a choke from Sloth. He said it himself.
I thought he was
Heroic
ADS,
did
man.
not have the teeth to sink into that round.
Let's go please. Timeout? Timeout.
Timeout.
Okay, boys, I already stopped it. Like, look at me. What I said is, look at me. And look at your fucking leader right now. He's the only one. I hear you guys come a little bit here and there. He's the only one fucking steering you like puppets. What happened to initiative? What happened to going for opportunities? What happened to fucking talking together and saying, you come with me. Let's fucking go. Let's go and kill this guy. Let's rotate. Let's do something. Are you just waiting for this man to fucking lead us? Come on. We're 5 people in the team. We cannot win this game if we're gonna do shit alone and wait for fucking orders. We need to come with initiative. We need to bleed for it, boys. I don't fucking see blood coming out of the ears. Let's fucking go. Let's want this now. Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go, boys. Come on. Yep.
Even I feel energized after that. I feel like I can go to
Can we get Murat to just like give us motivational
follow
speak at the
Murat
start of
into
each
battle. Damn.
This is like some Aragon level stuff from the Return of the King.
There's the edit. I'm energized now. Okay, Murat, I'm going to bleed from the ears for you. You hope Heroic might do the same as well. This happening after round 2. I think he's seen the problem, and that is there's this lack of coordination. 5 kills over 2 rounds. They haven't quite been able to get the snappiness, most notably from Joom and Noodle. You have to remember how good they were on the attack before, how important it is that they end this on at least a positive, and even half, and things get very dangerous.
Well, M80 going to a third different bomb site now. It's Teller's Archives, and the telltale signs of some upstairs setup, shield in the stock hallway. No reinforcements on the stock walls, though. Those reinforcements quite scarce when you're extending so ambitiously.
Attackers are moving
I wonder, yeah, okay, we are going to get some reinforcements here. So this is more akin to what you would expect out of a CEO-like setup, where you've got feed holes on the stock jump in, you've got reinforcements on the stock walls, and a power position set up enabled by that shield. Rotations from janitors into CEO, and it looks like CEO is where the attack begins for Heroic, as Noodle is on that rappel.
That's it. It's a bit of a dicey site to hold on to this because all of it is soft above. There's nowhere you can comfortably pull yourself back into and retreat, and there's the fun use of the Echo drones, reading, rolling out. I love this, and this is why I say protect your Echo, because on a map like this, you do things like that. Hop out the window, draw the attention, almost find the next. Please don't tell me he escapes. Oh, he's escaped. Gomez gets a big kill, gets Noodle off the board. A big player shut down quite early on. And that is a very devastating opening minute.
Yeah, I'm loving the strat that we see from so many teams these days, where they get that yokai drone, they put it in the little drone hole, and they start peeking outside of that balcony, enabling these jump outs. It was absolutely worth it for that early advantage here for M80. Now playing without Noodle, without one of their primary entries, Heroic will desperately try and piece together some map control, but it's difficult with this extended setup from M80 up top.
That's it. You try and prod an angle and you don't really know where you're being watched from. Sloth repelling this.
This is ambitious, man.
I mean, this is terrifying. This is never really seen, and if it's rewarded, oh, not quite. They might think it's coming from the windows. It's not anywhere that you really set yourself in. Even Spirits, I think he thinks it's down at the door because you don't look to the skylight, because usually it's suicide.
Hang on a second. Uno, I believe, is that him? He's made his way all the way up to Banana. Does just drone up red now. Spirits spotted. Very dangerous position for Uno to try and march up these stairs. There's barbed wire right at the top. That'll reveal his position. But here we go. Second player to come and support him. Spirits gets the audio call. He gets the down. He gets them both. And Heroic once again falling apart. M80 look like they've got the round in the bag. Joom and Grizzly try and put something together. And Joom's the first one to find a kill here for Heroic in the round. But 30 seconds left. Spirit still alive, still up top.
Oh, no.
He can take down Grizzly with the bailiff. It's all on Joom now. Time to ace up or go busts. Bust it is. M80, 3 rounds straight.
3 rounds in a row, and smiles we haven't seen on this team's faces during a game for a while. And to be fair, they've earned it. As I said at the start of this, defense is the telltale heart of this game. If it beats for one team, you assume the other will go mad with the floorboards, and it seems like they are hitting your head against it and trying to find the source of woe. 3 in a row, M80, that is just devastating. And it is Bank, it does play well to defense, I know this. But neither of these two teams have played Bank well, played defense well today.
It's true. Look, honestly, I would have expected more from Heroic on this attacking side, especially on the back of that beautiful inspirational speech from Mr. Officer and that tactical timeout. They don't have another tactical pause throughout the rest of this game. They've used it. It's gone. And so it doesn't matter from here on out. Even if they are to push to a 3-3 half, then they got to switch onto the defense and hope that they can nail down a few. We've had 2 overtime games where Heroic have been fired up. By far, the more energetic of these two teams. And while that can work in their advantage, I wonder if that candle has burned at both ends just for a little bit too long and they're starting to run out of steam.
I mean, you know, we're 5 hours different than what we are in EU. At this point, I would be well tuckered into bed.
Mate, you're telling me I'm 16 hours different from my time.
Yeah, but you're not playing a game.
Yeah, I know, but I just wanted to remember.
So we know. So it's obviously one of those things where you're trying to get into the swing, and maybe I'm just painting a dramatic picture, probably, but it's still one worth noting that it's a long, long day of siege. The first fight, they drop out of there. They're not going to take it quite intently. They pull themselves back. The roam game from M80 this time round is definitely more prepared for this, the approach of Heroic.
I mean, I'm glad to see that Heroic have Doom just confident, marching forward, going for these early plays. Scary thing is, he's kind of solo. There's no drone ahead of him right now. There's no player to refrag him. Well, as I say that, Sledge makes his presence known. There's a lot of work still to be done in the round, though, for Heroic. Even though they have started to peel back that first layer, they've taken down top floor control. The site is down in the basement, and M80 are once again going for this extended hold with the castle strategy. And Spirits is, as a result, allowed to stay in staff room for a very long time.
Yeah, it's slower. It's steadier. It's something that, to be fair, if we go all the way back to border, that was what they said. The aggression isn't working. We've got to be more together. We can take them. Now, this map is 30 times the size of border. You can fit so many little borders in here, perhaps the top of bank. And that's one of those problems that might come back to haunt them, because time has sometimes been a bit of an issue with Heroic's executes. They seem to have a steady on. Spirits is still tucked on the side of open. Sloth's going to see if he can get the drone and the reveal on the player who's just further and further back. But look at the time. There's a minute here. And they've got to really try and get this first kill. The pings come through. The spray against Spirits. He's now tucked behind a hard wall. He can buy himself another 10 seconds. There's a player. There's two! Downs the back on the end as well. The swing of the sledge. He confirms the kill first. And that is just catastrophic.
Who needs the P90 when you're that much of a god with the SMG-11? Spirits might have been traded, but he was worth his weight in gold. Now, Heroic, last time, they didn't go for this server push. They desperately dropped the back hatches. Well, this time they have a little bit more legs to their push, but they don't have the players. And look at the plant denial that M80 have available.
2 smokes still left in pocket, 2 C4s in a whole lot of pain. They're stacked up in gold. They've got the width all the way to garage. There's been no congestion or test on the opposite end of this. Once again, they're just throwing themselves into the fire, and that man can see right through it. Uno, he's going to see if he can sneak. The plant is just covered, but not enough by guns, and the C4 locks it out. 4 rounds in a row for M80, and this is getting tougher and tougher.
For M80, they are fired up right now. They have control of this game. Not only did they play that late round to perfection, but you can't deny the impact Spirits had on that roam. Heroic tried to play more conventionally. They tried to do a thorough map control take. They tried to address this hole with the castle inside of staff room and open area. And when it's only a single player that they're trying to clear out, with the SMG-11, a secondary weapon. There's 17 bullets in that thing, and he sprays down 2 players with 1 magazine? Sometimes players just have those rounds, and when it can turn the tide of a match, when it can have an impact on the opponent's mental, that's when you look at a moment in the game and you're like, that's when Heroic died, and that may well be the round. They need to get back on the horse right now.
Jorgen and Diaz, between the pair of them, 8 and 0. They have not died as a pairing across the board as of yet. There is just an ominous nature of that is impossible to sort of circumvent. There's a problem, quite obviously, and how do Heroic break through it? It's, you know, we've seen the tag timeout, we've seen the conversation. They cannot have anything else unless they force M80 to pull one themselves. But at this point, M80 are only pulling one thing, and that's a map, so they can get themselves into bed at this rate.
Well, they certainly won't be satisfied. Perhaps they'll stay awake at night thinking about this game if Heroic go down with, after the phenomenal performance that they have shown, especially on map 1, 6 rounds in a row they managed to achieve against M80. And here, to go down like this would be an embarrassment, would be a real shock to the mental, rock the confidence.
Oh no, Yoga waiting, watching up white. Doom gets the first, something not said too often, and Sloth is about to pounce into the lion's den. And is he aware? Well, slowly actually, he might be aware of other things. Kino gets caught out, Noodle's able to find one, and this is a rare windfall that we've got on the side here. Noodle suffers a bit. They're not going to take the hatch drop. They're not going to take the skylight. They've instead rethought that and said, we've got a man advantage. We don't need to throw ourselves really into this that aggressively.
It's a good start from Heroic here, and it may be their best chance of getting around on the board. A reinforcement there on the hatch in stock. That gives Heroic an avenue to drop onto site. As they have this numbers advantage already, really, they just need to start locating these players. They might be able to start pushing for an execute before too long.
All the hatches are open. Grizzlies looking for some work to do, but with a minute 20, this is how you have to try and capitalize for everything that's gone away from you for this game. If this round does, I think that would spell potentially the end of Heroic's mental throughout this series. Diaz, he's stepping back in. Noodle steps back louder. They're looking for the first engagement. Sees the take, gets the first. Can they find the second? There it is. Drives back into sight. Gomez hops into Kansan corner. You're still looking at a lot of time here. They still have the man advantage, but it's suddenly gone from the 5 versus 2 to the 2 versus 3. A much more palatable taste for M80.
I think Diaz has been misdroned. He snuck his way behind the printer just outside the window, and there's a drone. I don't think it saw him. Where is Uno? He drops down the hatch, and Diaz is left to his own devices. He finds the double, but Heroic nonetheless salvage the round. Doom pulls them over the line when it's needed, and finally they break this spell. They find their first round on bank.
Next round, come on.
That was almost disaster. That was almost a 2 versus 5 turned into a 1 versus 1 with a missed drone in the dying seconds. Oh no. It's still worrisome. Heroic, they scrape around. They might find a second here, but they need to do it with a confidence that they're missing because they've still got their week and a half to go.
Yeah, really a 5-1 here would be just as devastating for Heroic as the 6-0. It looked like potentially on the cards before they finally broke through and found a round there. Heroic need to make sure that they can close out this second round to finalize the fact that the half, even though we know M80's got it in the bag, Heroic need to make sure that they can get every advantage they can going into their unfavored side, as you said, on that defense. Now looking at M80, they're not going to go back to open area staff room. They've gone back up. Well, actually, they've gone... Oh, sorry, yeah. I thought they'd gone up top for a second. They went Tellers and Archives. And the thing is, last time, this was a really convincing round for M80, despite Heroic having just taken a tactical timeout.
Oh, it was tragic for the side of Heroic. Caught out at the very beginning by the Echo drone, rolling its way outside and getting the free pick on the windows. The change here... I mean, they'll see if they put some attention elsewhere. They have a couple of drones in place. There is still so much intel, and we haven't massively talked about it, but you've been looking at a pretty consistent pairing of the Valk alongside the Echo. They're playing these big spaces. Yeah, pre-fires on the corners there. Gomez doing a bit of damage, but at least they can prove that Diaz and Yoga can die. Though Diaz did get 4 kills in the past round. Almost an ace clutch then that would have been.
Yeah, it would have been. It was incredibly nuts. Heroic have made some really good progress here. Look at the ground they've managed to take. Noodle inside of open area. I believe there must be a rotate there in admin into site. Doom's also made his way up the main stairs. And so Heroic wait patiently, cutting off in these lurk positions, seeing if they can find any players rotating. Sloth also in bot square earlier. Might be damaging. You can see M80 is so wary of these positions.
Oh, bit of a miss throw there. The grenade didn't quite get the reach that it wanted, and that's always going to be a warning bell to the player playing around the stacks that maybe you need to take a step away from the window. In this, though, Noodle stacked up underneath it. Just wants the drift, and to be honest, a couple of these have slightly slipped away, and Kino's going to go hunting to see if there is the player underneath in the position. The drone rolls on through, doesn't quite get the connection. There's the rotate on the hatch, still no time. The grenade doesn't quite get the impact. He's so close to the sight wall as well, and it's this cause for concern. Oh, there is Kino! Winning it out top to bottom, rocks Noodle, and the pressure comes behind it, but Gomez is the one that puts a stop to it, finds Sloth. Doom, he's not entirely sure which way he wants to go. Uno's trying to think about it, pushes in the smoke into Diaz's waiting arms. who stacks himself up on the opposite end. And well, they were so close to the fire the whole time. At some point you expect to get burnt, but here from that to this, a 5 versus 2, almost a 5 versus 1. There it is. Grizzly would have to ace clutch.
It's not going to happen for Heroic. M80 have been beautiful on this round, stealing their nerve on this vertical hold. Kino above, opening up with a beautiful flick, and Heroic just waves crashing on the cliffs, having absolutely no impact. Grizzly looking for a consolation frag and finds absolutely nothing. A flawless round is quite a way for M80 to go on 5-1
Almost accident.
on their
This is
defense.
way too good.
Hello!
He was in the mini. Yeah.
We still continue the trend of coaches being the most vocal members. Just imagine Mr. Officer and Vivus on the opposite sides of a football pitch.
I think we need to settle this with an arm wrestle after the match is over.
Bear fight.
Well, yeah, if we can. Can we televise that?
Probably not legally. Lockers! We head on down to Heroic. My. We have a lot of work ahead of us at this point. Over the past 2 maps, do you want to know how many defensive rounds Heroic have won?
Have you calculated this?
Oh, I know. I've got it ready.
All right, what is it?
4.
Okay. Heroic are not in on the defense. Is that what you're telling me?
They haven't been today, and that's that sort of risk. That's that sort of problem right now. And to be honest, M80 were the same. They would, if they weren't, we wouldn't have had 2 OTs. That's just how the nature of math works.
Amazing.
I know.
I've heard about math. Here's some for you.
Yep.
The last 2 times that Heroic have played Bank, they only have won 36% of their defensive rounds compared to 46 on the attack. So you think their attack's left a little to be desired. Just you wait until they switch on over to this defensive side. To their credit, some fantastic ingredients ready to be cooked up into a storm here. Mira, Solus, and the Valkyrie, all fantastic for information gathering, for denying plant. We also have plenty of C4s to assist Heroic in the late round. And I expect to see these Valkyrie cameras being used to enable some flanks. Now they've been used to spot out that Kino has in fact brought this Montaigne, and M80 may be going for a rear take.
Diaz wanting to not only just prove that he's number 1, but he's 11
Okay.
to 1 at this moment in time. The whole team of Heroic put together has 12 kills. If there is anything that exemplifies a player stepping up when they need to, my word, you want Diaz on your bench. He has really come in to that number 1 setting he had at the start of the day, and he's hoping that after the previous 2 maps he can end the day in the same place. Grizzly, he's in a pretty tight spot. He's got to get out of there. He has no other choice at that point. When a Monty is that close to the face, you just got to pull back. Hey, remember when you talked about Monty always being banned?
Well, not so this time. Noodle, though, does manage a flank. The Monty doesn't try an ADS. Does mean that Noodle is now being hunted down. The Monty calling out his position, but he's going to be able to drop this hatch if he decides to do so. He wants a bit more before he goes for it. But eventually he does. That's a heck of a lot of damage to do onto Kino, though. So huge play with the C4. Takes him low. There's no smoke in the lineup, though, which is typically one of the best ways to counter this Monty in the late round.
Yeah, a couple more C4s. They might be able to use a couple of impacts to do some damage as well. And as you said, with what has already been done to him, that's a much more dangerous prospect at this point in time, especially when he's the one with the kit. We talked about it in the first round when the Monty went down. If you lose them, you've lost the strategy. You've lost a play. It is exactly the same premise. If he's there for a reason.
Hang on a second. What's Doom doing all the way upstairs?
Having an adventure.
Come on, Sam, we're going for an adventure. Doom's gone all the way to the top floor. These hatches still remaining closed. There are some vertical lines of sight, but he's also got the Solus, so he can spot out any players droning, any on their cams. Now the info that Kino has dropped all the way down into elevator. Heroic might be able to, no way! There is no way Diaz was watching that. He simply knows. And now M80 are going to execute into the 4v3. There's nothing for it. Perhaps a C4 can salvage it, but Noodle's going to need more than that. The plant going to go down now. Kino forcing it inside of lockers. Diaz now easily covering 12 kills to his name. The stuns to put Noodle back in his place. But in the post plant, Uno does find the first step. Noodle as well. It's Kino in the 2v1, make it a 1v1. Noodle, no C4 in the 1v1 against the Monty. One of the most unenviable positions, but out of nowhere, he gets the knife, and he's going to be able to defuse.
Wow. I think we might be looking into that in a second.
I have never seen that before.
I have.
Come on, boys.
And
let's get this. Let's go.
I mean, you saw the reaction in all chat. There's not much I have to say at that point, but there's a reason that we're on a pause right now.
It's not my jurisdiction, fellas.
No, this is so far out of our jurisdiction.
He's using a glitch.
So,
Bro, we really fucking won that round. Like, you can't kill the Monte.
yeah, I mean, we can only sort of sit there. You understand why it's been paused there. I assume everybody does.
No comment.
No, we legally, you and I, we don't make it.
Cannot speak.
We're just fun, silly voices.
If I speak, I am in trouble.
We're just fun, silly voices for the late night video game tournament. We don't make these calls.
So the admins will be discussing what has just occurred and what they think about that round. One thing is for sure, though, that was quite a round. The fact that M80 managed to pull off that back push, despite Heroic having that roamer still at large of Jim, was impressive, to say the least.
So no, he was looking down. You have to look down. I saw him looking down, and I was like, oh, he's using the
hopefully be back in sooner. The round is going to be replayed. And it's the admin's decision. And that's all we'll say on it.
Indeed. Exciting times. Getting back into the game, M80 have been dominant. They went up 5-1 on their defensive side. The only round that Heroic has managed to achieve in this game so far was Doom's 1 versus 2 clutch in open area staff in round 5. And aside from that, it has been M80's game through and through. In the previous time we saw this round play out, it was a very tight affair. M80 started fairly strong, but Heroic managed to get Doom on this big flank upstairs. M80 punished him, and from that onset, it looked like M80 was likely to win the round. They went for a fairly desperate vault and elevator drop. Kino managed to plant with the Monty. And this time around, it looks like the same operator lineup as for both sides. The question is, will M80 repeat the same style of attack? Will they be going once again for that rear side?
Doom wanted to make a bit of a statement there at the top of the stairs and is going to pull himself back, keeping a keen eye for any drones and other parts and pieces that might be in their way. They have a pretty solid control of the middle, and they're going to see how long they can stick that. In the meantime, the drones, Aquino and Diaz, roll their way through across the big, open, vast space of lobby. Grizzly is once again playing themselves just above the hatch with the soft to give them a little bit more of a heads up as the approach comes round, but Heroic, they weren't quite able to keep a solid control of the rest of the roam and the players before. It seems like M80 are going for a slightly different tact here. Still getting themselves in, probably still going to open the lobby hatch itself. They have more than enough utility between the Habana and the pocket hard breaches of Kino to do what you really need to do on this site.
And that pocket hard breach indeed will be utilized to open up the vault hatch in lobby. Kino next looking to clear elevator hallway on the first floor. Sloth prepping a C4, aware that Yoga above him is engaging in this vertical play, starting to open up avenues to clear out these Teller's Archives positions. That C4 was actually spotted and baited and did not land a kill, as these roamers are still at large inside of open area.
Look at this, they're going to force the descent, but there are players inside open. The slight impact and, well, they're trying to force the fight here. The drop of the drone, hoping somebody comes in behind. The longer they can kill time here, the more dangerous they can be. Doom suffers a bit. They're playing around that open. Uno's underneath with the C4. There's the reveal, there's the release, but Noodle wins it out first. That was a swing, I believe, from open. And now with the Monty gone first, I talked about how important that can be. The kit is out of hand. The push is slightly out of pocket, and with a minute left, they've got to try and reconvene the faces downwards.
And without that Monty, they don't have information. They didn't even know where the elevator was clear. As we can see, Grizzly has now dropped. But M80 had to waste a couple flashes just to confirm that information for themselves. Spirit's still afraid. Eventually does quickly peek it. See elevators clear. Here's the ringing phone of Grizzly down below. Almost gets caught out by these Capcan traps. As the hatches are beginning to open. Oh my God,
I thought he was going to hit that hard there. He's still kind of tempted by the idea, but look at this pressure from M80. They know that time was becoming a little bit of a factor, so here it comes. The drive, the push, the attempt at the kit down. Spirits does go down though, and that's the worst possible person. Caught out by the impact at the end of it. They're swinging themselves round. They've got to get that recollected. Touched by the only bit of heart that they have. 13 seconds. A huge take on one side. Yoga looking for the next. The mirror window gets popped. They can't quite win it out. There it is. But now it's a 2 versus 1, and Diaz, he's got the top floor the first fight. It's his to win, a 1 versus 1. A man who has really driven M80 through this fight. They had a bit of a pause, a bit of a play. They bait the roam sloth. He's found 2 so far. He can't quite get the angle for the next 20 seconds. And a little bit of a game of cat and mouse. Who can stick it? Diaz can!
You're a dog shit player! Go back to ranked! Your place is not here! Your place is not here!
Good call, Gomez.
You know,
that is what M80 needed.
Insane call.
I mean, you know when I said in the map too that things are feeling a bit scrappy?
This is personal now.
This is personal now.
What an attack though. Such conviction. M80 sprung into action. They were pretty timid throughout the mid-round. It took them a very long time to clear out that position in elevator from the roaming Wamai, and they lost their Montaigne in the process. It was dire straits, and yet they managed to convert. They managed to, while they managed to retake that open area control, 2 other players went server, and they sprung into action. On the back of those flashbangs, they forced that plant down. Miraculous feat from M80. On the back of that, a 6-1 lead and match point in the series. If M80 win this, they will go up 3 points on the standings. That will put them on 6 above Heroic, or in fact tie with Heroic once Heroic get the single point out of this game. A huge boon for M80's run into the playoffs.
One more round, M80. And I remember at the start of map 2, Kino says, let's get 3 points, boys.
Absolutely.
Seems like they're more than happy to finish off the words there. Diaz just as hot as he was before we had the timeouts. And he looks ready to put this one to bed. Look at this pace underneath the air jab, cutting the rotate off. Obviously, there's a lot of mobility that can be offered on this site. There's those hatches that become quite dangerous. The rotate up the bottom of blue to cause some problems. And, well, his first point of call was, let's stop that.
M80 are filled with confidence. They are very eager to close this game out. They have 5 match points ahead of them. Heroic on this Staffroom defense have a pretty strong setup, particularly that shield that Grizzly is holding on to at the moment inside a Staffroom makes it very difficult for any attacker to clear out his position. Of course, he's vulnerable to those Rotero drones.
Exactly that. Now the first one's popped off. He's got to be very cautious of in front of him and now behind. It's such a dangerous place to play. And here's the second. It's going to go a bit wider. He's focused on one fight at the minute. They get a bit of extra width towards the opposite end. And Doom is the first off the board. There's the shield in the pocket of Spirits this time round. The breach on the wall. Gomez takes a bit of a scrape from range. Used all of his Roteros, and now they got to see if they can try and force this. But there's the rotate underneath. I talked about it before.
Oh, they see it.
It is well watched. Noodle, he's about to find himself maybe caught a bit unawares. I don't know if they truly know, but it's a slow, slow creep.
Who's watching for this? There was the call, but who was watching for this position? Noodle has been droned out, and I don't think they know about it. Diaz to cut him off. But he's afforded quite a bit of flexibility here, peeking inside of blue. Noodle is so patient. And he knows perhaps that he has been droned. He sees the position, but Gomez gets the better of him. We find ourselves in a 5v3 here on match point as the Lion roars and M80 march toward the bomb site.
Round the back, Diaz gets one, Sloth finds Yoga and at least stems the blood, but it's not for very long.
Let's go!
We couldn't have had a more bitter fight from the start to the end. 2 overtimes. And a train running out of steam. There's only so many heroic plays in the Heroes kit, but there sure is a lot going on in M80s.
At the end of the first map, there was no doubt Heroic were fired up beyond anything